Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is an introduction to the dashboard initiative. This initiative started on DrupalCon Prague in September. And the title is, so I logged in, now what? Because what happens when you log in on a Drupal site? I'm López, and I work as a freelance. I'm Peñasquito on Drupal.org.
And I'm Cristina, work at Lulabot, and for those who have been in Drupal for years, probably your question is like another attempt. We just removed Drupal, the dashboard in Drupal 7. So yeah, we are doing another dashboard. So we have here the dashboard from the last one that we had. And yeah, you can see that it was really useful content. Basically, when you install that, Peñasquito told me that there was this shortcut, and a lot of people, the first thing that they did was that. And yeah, I don't know. It's sad, but yeah, I guess there was a lot of people doing a lot of efforts here, but it was removed. So when we decided that we wanted to create a new dashboard, one of the first things that we started with was like trying to see which is the problem that we're actually trying to solve, because it's like, yeah, let's have a dashboard, but if we don't want to repeat what happened, because I'm pretty sure the technical part was perfect, it's just that it wasn't useful enough. So which problems are we trying to solve? First, when you log in, what happens? You get into the user page. Like, perfect, I've been a part of this site like for 3 hours if I'm a site builder, because I'm reinstalling this. So it's super useful. Even for a content user, it's like, what is this? Another part is like, you start on a different place each time. If you want to create content, you probably are going to go to the admin content. If you want to create content types, you're going to go to a completely different page. If you want to see if you have any update to make to your site, you're going to go to even another place. Even if yourself are going to do different tasks, you're going to start those tasks from different places. So we don't have any unique or singular or same place to start everything. Another problem that we could see on the old dashboard is that we didn't have really relevant content for each of the steps. Well, for example, a content user, if he wanted to see relevant content, he needs to go and filter whatever he has in there. So you need several steps to get in there. So if you want to start something else, you have to do usually like several steps, either from the menu or whatever. So you always need to do several steps to get into the place that you want. And that's something that a lot of people probably don't think it's useful, but maybe there are people that want that there is not a site-wide communication. A place to have site-wide communications, like imagine that you're working on e-commerce and there is, I don't know, wherever notification that there is a lack of service on somewhere. You might want that, or like Drupal Association News, for example. So the thing is, which content do we want to have on each dashboard? Because the thing is that, do we really want the same dashboard? And for that, we started defining user personas. Is there anybody here that doesn't know what is a user persona? Or, okay. So basically, we want to define what we want to show and for which kind of people. Like, what's the main purpose for each person when they log into their site. We came up with these initial 4 personas. You could divide them into like site builders and content users. but each of them like have different purposes. The content editor, for example, is a role that we have nowadays in Drupal core. The work for defining user personas for Drupal has started like a long time ago, and that's why we have the content editor. But I'm not sure if you all remember, probably not, but when we created the issue to have this content editor role in Drupal core, there was a huge discussion about a content editor is not the same as a content manager. They need different tasks. But the thing is that, wait, each site might even have like 5 different content users. And this is something that we can't define. So we need to solve the problem for 80% of cases, but not solve the problem for each of them. And that's the same for the site builder and the administrator. When we say administrator, are we talking about the person that is building the website or the person that is going to maintain the website later? Because is that person going to need like to know the updates, or is this person going to go and create content types? So we really need to have that defined to know what content do we want in there. So that's why we created these different set of characteristics for each of them. Like for the site builder, we said that it doesn't mean that everybody has to have these classifications, but we kind of try to have these 80% of use cases defined. So for example, the site builder builds features. As you can read, like translates the interface, but not the content. Work with Drupal, creates content types. What's important here is the frustrations. For example, spending time jumping around the admin interface can be frustrating. That's one of them. For example, the motivations, how we can improve that for them. We want to implement features. They want to probably implement features, a site builder, without the admin person. A site builder probably is going to be the admin a lot of times, but maybe they don't have permissions to do some stuff. And for example, the administrator, that we could call it also site administrator, this is going to be the person that is going to manage the Drupal site. As a site builder, you're just using Drush because you're working on your local, but maybe an administrator can just go to the logging into somewhere and just run whatever crazy things through the CI, well, through anything, because they have to take care of whatever they do. So we had completely different things for each of them. And we kind of came up with a separated thing. We kind of grouped all the content users in the same bucket and then the admin users on the other one, because even though we have different things for admin users, probably several of those things are common to each other. And for the content users, we can deliver like 25 dashboards, completely different dashboards. So we came up with different ideas. I know you're seeing shortcuts here, and probably some of you know that shortcuts is proposed to kick that out of core. Let's see what happens if it's not if it's not in there when we propose the dashboard. We will have to come up with another thing, but those are like different things that we were thinking about. Just a little bit of context. These efforts to create a dashboard is because we want to improve the admin interface. And here are a few issues to give you some context. We are trying to create a new navigation for the admin interface to replace a toolbar. There is also a lot of efforts trying to improve the field UI, the usability of the field UI, and also the usability of the layout builder. So this is not like out of the blue. It's something that it's shared efforts across several people.
Yeah, so now we are going to see a bit of what's the approach we are taking for implementing this. So first, so we are planning this to have like this common front-end concept, which is progressive enhancement. So the idea is that we will have a dashboard that doesn't depend on anything, but if you, for example, install layout builder, then you will be able to customize that with layout builder. So at the end, a dashboard is just a config entity that you can say if it has a name, if it's enabled or not, and little else. And then if you have the layout builder enabled, it will improve that so you can customize which blocks you can add there. So it's like three different steps. So first is if you don't have dashboard or anything, when you log into your site, you go to /user, as you are doing right now. If you enable dashboard, you will go to a new page, admin dashboard, where you will have some defaults content, actions that we think that you might like. And if you enable layout builder, you have the power to customize that. When we talk about the people using Drupal, usually you wear several hats. Like I might be an admin, but I'm also a site builder. I might be a content manager, but I also might be the CEO. I might be in charge of CEO, so I want to have multiple dashboards. So we will have the ability to have multiple dashboards, and you can customize which dashboards a user or a role can see based on permissions. So we have defined an access permission for the dashboards, and then we have the administer dashboard permission. And when you have multiple dashboards, an issue is how do you order them, or what's the default for each role. And what we are using here by now, it's just the weight, so you can reorder the dashboards. And for example, here we have the administrator dashboard, the content management dashboard, and you can reorder them, so you will see which one has priority over the other. And as we said before, we had to do this personas thing because one thing is how you will be able as a site builder to provide value to your users in the dashboard, but we need also sensible defaults for core. So first time you just install Drupal, you already see something that might be useful for you. So this is an exercise that it's not that easy, like defining which kind of content we want to have there. So this is what we need to define, what and for whom. So this is an example of what we have already. So when you log in, you will get to this dashboard. In this case, this is an admin user, so it has two different dashboards. The default dashboard, which is the first one, so it's the administrator one. Then you have the content management dashboard, and in this dashboard, in this example, we can do admin stuff. Like I can manually run cron, I can clear my cache, or I can see recent content that was added to the site. But if I'm a content manager, I can see some stuff like my own drafts. What's the content that I might want to review for publication or I need to edit? Or I can see recent content, recent comments. Maybe if I had a multilingual site, I could see here which content needs translation to specific languages. And then if I can administer my dashboards, I will have an edit layout button, so I can just jump into it and customize the dashboard for every user that has access to this dashboard. So one thing that we need to define is what is available. It's not only the defaults, but providing useful stuff to put in there. And also at the same time is not overwhelming the users or the site admins that might create these dashboards. Like we have this other issue in Layout Builder that is listing the list of available blocks in Layout Builder is overwhelming to users. Like, if you install 20 contrib modules, you end up having like a very long list of blocks, and it's hard to manage Layout Builder with that. So there are issues trying to improve this, and this, when we build the dashboard, like we probably will be adding more blocks. Like, I want to have a stack, and that's one of the reasons that this was removed from Drupal 8. Like the dashboard in Drupal 7, no one really created content that was useful to put into the dashboard. Like the dashboard was useful, but there were nothing that you could put in there. So one thing is we need to define if our dashboard should have any kind of blocks. We want a custom block for our dashboard. That's something that we still are exploring because we don't want to make this problem even harder for Layout Builder for when you are creating the layout of your content, but also when you are creating the layout of your dashboards. So there's a lot of stuff that we still need to discuss. And we welcome you on the Sprints Room. We usually connect on the dashboard channel in Slack and have like, we are meeting every other week. And there's a lot of people that already contributed to this, but more hands are always needed. So thank you. Qué rápido, hija. Qué rápido. Yeah. Time for questions.
Thanks for your talk. I have a quick question with regards to that last point you talked about the number of overwhelming blocks that were available. Have you considered or identified some categories of blocks that maybe you could separate them in? For example, from my experience in creating dashboards this is for really particular sites with some particular people, I find that usually you would get statistics blocks, content blocks, and tools. So for example, you would get a list of contents that's in the contents category. You would get a list of statistics with graphics, and that would be in the statistics category, and tools such as the fact that you can run the cron or the fact that you can clear the cache. And maybe eventually a view-based, like if you want to create a view, a block based on a view and then insert that, you could have sort of a view category. But did you manage to, or think about and identify any of these categories yourself?
Yeah, so the thing, for example, in views, like views, blocks provided by the views, they have a category, but no, it's not working. Hello? Yeah. Yeah, so for blocks views, like you have this category, but people usually don't fill that, and we don't use that in core actually. Like all the blocks in core have the category views blocks, which is not very useful because it's what it is, not what is providing somehow. So that's something that we might want to improve. And at the same time, how we discover the blocks that we are showing. We thought about one of the things that we have a proof of concept already is providing a different, in the plugin display for a block, we can provide a different attribute, which is if it should display on a dashboard or not. Because one thing that we want is like we could do like a custom block for the dashboard and don't use the block. But then we may face the same problem that we already had in Drupal 7, which is people have to think about the dashboard when they create a blog. Or they need to provide specific blocks for the dashboard. So one thing we wanted to avoid is having to think about the dashboard while at the same time not overwhelming users because of the amount of blocks that you have. So I think this is a place where the layout improvements will help. We also have, I created an issue for being able to filter which kind of blocks you can show. For example, now, if you create a content type and you add layout builder to it, you cannot exclude yourself to content blocks because that's a different button somewhere. So this is something that we need to collaborate with the layout builder people also to improve. But yeah, that's something that we are still exploring. Like, should we have around category? Should we have around block type? Because then we should also have a new display for views. Like, you would need to have like a new display block for the dashboard, and this is something that somehow we want to avoid. Not sure if I answer your question.
Hi. Hello. In the use case where you have a user that has access to multiple different dashboards, did you consider consolidating the blocks of their combined dashboards into a single dashboard rather than displaying the choice of different dashboards? And if so, why did you not go with that?
Well, the thing is that if you have multiple dashboards, you probably already laid the blocks in a sensitive way for you. So if we just mix them, how do we mix them? Or one thing that we think it might be useful is when you are like, you should do one thing at a time. So if you have your content manager hat, probably you don't want to run the upgrades because then you might mess with something else. So it's some way of having focus too. Like, if you are looking at your CEO reports, probably you don't want to create content at the same time or this kind of stuff. Like, also, one thing that I find dashboard useful too is like, you can see at the first sight relevant information for you. If we mix all the dashboards, then it's like a very long dashboard, which you have to scroll, and you are losing your focus somehow. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking.
So the thing is that we're providing defaults. We're not providing complete features because that's what I was saying. We can't solve everybody's problem perfectly because everybody builds a completely different site for completely different client needs. So we're going to provide the assumption for that 80% of people. We're going to provide defaults, and then whoever wants to create a new dashboard, they can create this new dashboard. The thing is that if you're a site builder and you're going to take, like, I don't know, 2 months to build a site, are you going to take the time to create a dashboard and then export that into config, put that into production, or like the dev environment that you're working on? I mean, how many times the task for creating content or the administrator tasks are going to end up mixed with the content creation or the CEO Google Analytics dashboards or something like that? The thing is that if you want this personalization or customization, that's something that you can do. You have the option to do that because you can create dashboards, and if you enable layout builder, you can then personalize that. But that's the next step, and it's a key part. We think the good part is that you can customize that. But that's the thing. We want to provide good defaults, and from there, let people fly.
Thank you.
Hi. Have you considered at all using dashboards for front-end users as well as administrative users, like potentially making the paths for dashboards configurable so they're not in the admin interface?
When you say front-end users, are talking about front-end developers?
No, so we work a lot in the CRM space, building contact relationship management in Drupal. So we have clients with hundreds of thousands of users on the website, which are managed in the back end by staff using the administration pages. However, any of these users could also log in as a registered user to the site, but they wouldn't have permission to see any administrative pages. They might be event management, or they might be building dashboards for company operation. And what we tend to do for them is we tend to customize the user pages, so /user, block everything, and then progressively add a similar thing to what you're doing, summary blocks, information blocks, subpages in a very customized way. And maybe this is a space for Contrib and not Core, but we would very much benefit from reusing the dashboard initiative in this kind of space.
So this is something that we didn't consider until yesterday. Like someone yesterday already asked for something similar. So this is something that we might to consider, or at least be able to customize on Contrib. Also, another thing that people ask is being able to define the path of the dashboard. And one of the reasons I think is that for some usual e-commerce sites, they want to customize the merchant's experience. So like overriding some of our admin pages already with this kind of dashboards. So that's something that we didn't consider until now. Probably it's not being part of the MVP, and probably it's not going to be part of the initiative to bring this into Core, but this is something that we should take into account so it can be expanded in Contrib, yes.
Thank you.
So hey, one more question. So I'm a visual person, and I think part of the reason that the Drupal 7 dashboard failed is that Drupal has this stereotypical list of lists and then a couple buttons, and that's what it is. Is that part of your plan to have some visual blocks in the dashboard, or views display modes that would be visual or something along those lines? There would be more eye candy, like that kind of stuff that was on the drawing as part of the initiative, and not just use the existing blocks as we have?
That's a very interesting question, because like we thought this would be really useful, for example, for showing stats. But stats is being planned to be removed from Drupal 11. We also thought that this would be useful for shortcuts, but shortcuts is planned to be removed for Drupal 11. So it's like, could I do visual stuff here? Yes. Can Core provide that out of the box in a default install? I'm not sure.
Thank you. Short answer, no. Long answer, we're having exactly not this conversation, but a similar conversation for the navigation. Like, for example, the icons on the navigation, because we are going to think, like, if we want to give the option to add custom menus into the site navigation. And if you want to add a custom menu, maybe you want an icon, and that inherently involves like having a library of icons or something like that. So the main problem is usually the visuals. So this is a conversation that we need to have for sure about how we make it easier for people to have something visually nice. By default, no, we are not going to have anything for that, or at least not on the MVP for sure, because we haven't identified any content, at least yet, that can have like nice graphics yet. If you have any idea, did we share the URL? Because we would love to hear ideas about content that can be useful. And can I still speak for 5 more minutes for Daniel is just like this for a while? No, seriously. So that's a long conversation about graphics that we are not going to get into that for the MVP.
One more question. Do you actually have some processes in place to challenge or test your assumptions or solutions?
Can you repeat that? We haven't.
Do you have processes in place where you can challenge or test your solutions or your assumptions about the user personas?
Okay, that's a long question. So we are working on user research, not just for the dashboard, but for several things. I'm going to talk about that. I'm sorry, shitty promo of my session on Saturday. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about the user research that we've done, we're doing, and we will keep doing. One of them is defining the user personas, even though not every initiative is going to use all of them. Another one is identifying user journeys. When I say user journeys, it's something that what I was talking about before. When you start a task somewhere, and you go through several steps, and each of them might be more or less frustrating. So those are user journeys, and you identify all the tasks. Something else is more related to the navigation itself, which we're doing some, we did some card sorting, and we are analyzing the results for the information architecture, but we're going to evaluate whatever the results and keep on going, researching on that. And the navigation itself is going to have some research that hopefully is going to affect this on several ways. So basically, the shared research is basically, apart from the user personas, is the user journeys. We don't have a prototype yet for this because we haven't finished the content list that needs to go on each of them. So we haven't validated that yet. But open to any suggestions.
All right, I will break it up at this point. Thanks a lot for the session. And if you have any more questions, feel free to chase them down after the session. Thank you. Quick reminder about our social events tonight. If you would like to join the pub quiz, it's at 6 p.m. starting on a first come, first serve principle. I think there are 70 seats in this pub we are doing it. And the second social event today is at 8. There's a comedy night. You need to sign up for that, but I heard that there are still some tickets available. So check that out on the website in the schedule. Thank you.